Hello everybody, my name is Jeff. I am the owner of Computer Lift. This is our first video and it's going to be about the most common thing that we do to practically every computer that comes through our shop, and that is disabling startup items and services to speed up a computer. I want to start off with a couple disclaimers. Number one, it's not a very advanced procedure, but if you're unsure or uncomfortable with anything that I'm showing you, don't do it. Call us, email us, we'll be glad to help. So in the end, if something happens, Computer Lift is not responsible for your computer because of this video. So let's get started. This is Windows 7. You can do this with Windows XP very easily or Windows Vista. And we're going to start by hitting the Windows key on the keyboard. Hold that down. And R, the letter R at the same time. You'll see Run. We're going to be using msconfig. I typed it in there already. There are other ways to do this, and there are programs you can buy. There are freeware programs you can download that do this and try to make it easier. And there are Windows Defender is another program. It's free from Microsoft that has a feature to do this. And I am more of a fan of keeping a machine as clean as possible. So msconfig is the built-in utility, and that's my preference. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to bring up System Configuration. I'm going to be dealing with Services and Startup only. Do not click on Boot or Tools or even General. We don't need to go there. It's going to be Services and Startup. Start with Services. The first thing, go down and hide all Microsoft services. We do not want to turn off Microsoft services today. By hiding all Microsoft services, you won't get into trouble by turning off a critical service you need. So when you hide all Microsoft services, what's left are third-party services that are running or either installed on your machine. And theoretically, you could disable every one of these. Uncheck the box, and your computer will boot just fine and run just fine. The one thing I never want to disable is my antivirus. In my case, it's ESET. Do not disable your antivirus. So you should know what your antivirus is, whether it's Norton or AVG free. Do not turn off your antivirus. Everything else on this list you can turn off. It's not dangerous. And you can reboot your machine. And if you find you need something like networking your iTunes now that doesn't work, or a printer monitor for your multifunction printer, you can go back to msconfig and turn it back on if you unchecked it. So you have to ask yourself, what do I use my computer for? Go through the list here and try to make sense of it. Every list will be different. And if you don't regularly use something on this list, uncheck the box. So that's my advice. And the same thing goes with startup. I'm going to click on startup now, and the only difference here is that there is no hide all Microsoft checkbox at the bottom, blank, because these are startup items that show up most commonly down here in the bottom right, all these icons. And every one of these items can be disabled. nothing bad will happen. But again, my antivirus is ESET. Do not disable your antivirus. So know what your antivirus is. Do not disable it. Everything else is safe to disable. You might lose some functionality, like I mentioned earlier, your printer or your iTunes, networking, webcam. But if you find that you can go back into msconfig, go to startup, check the box next to iTunes or HP printer monitor, for example, and reboot your machine, and it will work. So there's no permanent damage that can be done. It's kind of a hit and miss technique for those of you that don't know what every service is. So the idea is you can disable almost every single one, and then re-enable them if you need them. Never disable your antivirus. And if you know you have an HP printer or you know you network your iTunes, leave those running. Don't turn them off. But everything else can be turned off. Reboot your machine. It's going to run much faster. So when you're done with these two tabs, services and startup, you can click OK. Now here is where there's a small difference. I've already have mine configured. If you've never done this, it's going to prompt you to reboot and save the settings. And that's what you want to do. Reboot. When it reboots, in Windows XP only, you'll be prompted that you used the system configuration utility to configure your computer. And that's okay because we did. And so you would want to check Do Not Show Again for Windows XP, and that won't ever pop up again. Windows Vista and Windows 7, you won't get that, and you're done. So start using your computer and see if you lose any functionality, and if you do, go back into msconfig, turn some items back on, reboot your machine until you get it working the way you want. Do not forget, hide all Microsoft services under the Services tab. Do not turn off your antivirus, and you should be just fine. That's it for now. Please contact us, Computer Lift, via our website contact form, computerlift.com. You can email us, info@computerlift.com. Or you can call us, and we'll be glad to help.